Say, you have seen HTML programs, homepage.html, login.html, reg.html. 3 HTML programs you have seen. This is our task. Okay. 3 HTML programs you studied. Homepage.html, login.html, reg.html. 3 HTML programs you have seen. Say homepage.html. Here, this program, only 2 hyperlinks are there. 2 hyperlinks. Okay. HTML, background color, yellow color, text color, red color. Total content is centered. Total content is centered. Then welcome to Naresh Technologies with level 1 heading displayed. Okay. Say here, login is a hyperlink created. Registration hyperlink created. Login hyperlink, it is anchor tag. Okay. Registration also written in anchor tag. These 2 hyperlinks created. When you click this hyperlink, login.html program opened. When you click this hyperlink, registration.html program opened. Okay. Say login is a hyperlink, registration is a hyperlink. This is hyperlink reference. Whenever you click login.html opened. Here, whenever you click reg.html opened. Okay. After this, login.html. Here you have seen when this, what is this login? Last class I explained. What is this one? URL pattern of login solid. When this is executed, whenever submit button is clicked. If we click on submit button, the value of action attribute executed in a form tag. Okay. Then login solid is going to be executed. In that login solid is going to be executed whenever you click on submit button. What is uname? What is pivot here? Request parameter names. Uname pivot request parameter names to receive data we required. What is username? What is password here? Labels. This is only for output window purpose, user purpose. Okay. These 2 programmer purpose, Solid's purpose. Okay. Now, same style reg.html. Here, what is reg? URL pattern of registration solid. When you click on submit button, this solid is going to be executed. F name, L name, U name, pivot, these all request parameter names. First name, last name, username, password, labels. Okay. These all you studied. Just I'll execute again. Right click, run on server. Now you observe here homepage.html. Okay. This is homepage.html. Now just welcome to Naresh Technologies login registration. Okay. Now if you are a new user, you'll click on registration. Already registered user, you'll click on login. Say registration hyperlink. If you click, say registration form, first name, last name, username, password, submit, reset, back, login form, username, password, submit, reset. Okay. 3 programs you studied. It is homepage.html, it is login.html, it is registration.html. Now, if I click on login solid executed. Here, if I click on submit button, suppose I'll write some data here. When I click on submit button, say login solid is going to be executed. Here, login solid is going to be executed. Okay. If I click on registration form submit button, suppose here also some data I'll enter. I'll click on submit button. See, REG solid, REG URL pattern. So registration solid is going to be executed. So we have tried these two programs. These two programs we have tried. Before writing this program, you should know something about HTTP methods here. Here you observe. In login form or registration form, suppose if I remove this word, what will happen? See, username, password displayed in the address bar. See, run on server, save. Here, homepage.html, you click here, username and password. If you click submit button, now 1 minute, browser is not recognized. Now run on server. You observe homepage.html. I'll click login. I'll type username ABC, some password I typed. When I click submit, you observe it is URL pattern of login solid. It is request parameter name. It is value. Username ABC, password XYZ. It is displayed in address bar. It is displayed in address bar. Will it display in real time? Your password will it display? No. Now, by default, HTTP method get will be there. That is the reason it is displaying. This method, we have to make it as post. Here, method equal to post. If you write, then it works. Now, you observe. Right click, run on server, save. Now, it will not display in the address bar. You observe homepage.html, login, username, password. See, are you getting? No. Just one word, method equal to post. Okay. Then it will not display. Okay. Now here about HTTP methods, you have to learn. Now, first, in this entire program, only this is I didn't teach. Remaining all over, no? Now, no done. There are 7 HTTP methods. There are 7 HTTP methods. First one, get. Second one, post. Third one, put. Fourth one, delete. Fifth one, head. Sixth one, options. Seventh one, trace. There are 7 HTTP methods. Get, post, put, delete, head, options, trace. There are 7 HTTP methods. Okay. Get, post, put, delete, head, options, trace. Default HTTP method is node. Default HTTP method is get. So if you don't write any method name, by default get works. Default HTTP method is get. Default HTTP method is get. Now these all not in use, only get and post in use. Get and post, I'll explain. Differences between get and post. Differences between get and post. One side get, one more side post. differences between get and post. One side get, one side post. Now, what's the difference? I'll explain. See, there are 7 HTTP methods. First one get, second one post, third one put, fourth one delete, fifth one head, sixth one options, seventh one trace. Default HTTP method is get. If we don't write any method in the HTML program, by default get is working. If you write method equal to something in these 6, that method will work. These 6 remaining 5 methods are not in use. Only get and post we are going to use. That's what differences between get and post. What's the difference? You see. Differences between get and post. First of all, in the program, this box name I given. What I given this box name? Uname. This box name? P-word. Uname P-word. What are the words I written? Those are called request parameter names. Whatever you are typing here, those are called request parameter values. Name and value pair, it will maintain. Say, just if you don't write method equal to post, it is as a pair it is displaying. You observe. Right click, run on server, save. Here, homepage.html. If you click login, if you type username, if you type password, if I click on submit button, here it is showing as a pair. You observe uname equal to ABC and p-word equal to XYZ. Okay. Here already know up to here. It is a protocol communicating with server. The server is in same computer. Which server? Tomcat server. Which war file? Login war file. In that which solid? Login solid. In that request parameter name uname, that value is ABC. Request parameter name p-word, value is XYZ. So request parameters, name and value pairs concatenated as a one string. Concatenated as a one string, and that is passed to server. That is passed to server. Say, use here for this box name uname I given, for this box name p-word I given, uname equal to whatever I typed, that value, p-word equal to whatever I typed, that value, that uname equal to ABC, p-word equal to XYZ as a pair, totally concatenated as a one string, and it is passed. If you use like this, if you don't write anything, but if you write, it will not display. It will not display in the address bar. Okay. But then also data passed to server. Now, first difference you observe. Here, if you write get also, if you don't write anything, by default get only. Default is get. If you write method equal to post, then HTTP method post works. In a get also, post also, data transferred client to server. Your request parameters are passed. Client to server, it is passed. Get also passed, post also passed. But what's the difference is, this is the difference, first difference. Now write it. In this method, all request parameters are included in request header in a packet. Here, in this method, all request parameters are included in a request body in a packet. In this HTTP method, all request parameters are included in a request header in a packet. In this method, all request parameters are included in a request body in a packet. So data transferred client to server, server to client in the form of packets. That is BTech, CSC, CSIT students, they studied one subject, data communication. Data communication, TCP packets, UDP packets, some communication is there, no? That is. Here, that much depth not required, just a packet information enough here. Say, here, one packet will be there. In this packet, header part, body part will be there. Now, it is header. It is body. It is called packet. It is called packet. Now, while sending client to server, server to client, data transmitted through packets only. Now, here, header. Now, what will happen if you use get method? In this method, all request parameters are included in a request header. So, your request parameters are comes here. Request parameters. Suppose here body part comes. Body part. Header part is less. Body part is more. Now header, here body. Now here packet. Here data will be there. Request parameters. See, first this is a difference. So whatever you type, the data stored in header part. Here, whatever you type, the data stored in body part. First difference this is. Write this one. I'll explain. All difference I'll explain. Write this diagram. In this method, all request parameters are included in a request header in a packet. In this method, all request parameters are included in request body in a packet. So if you use get, parameters are included here. If you use post, parameters are included here. That is first difference. Is it over? So one packet created, in that packet, header, body will be there. Header and body. In this packet, header part included. So uname equal to ABC and pword equal to XYZ. That is data stored in this header part. Here, uname equal to ABC, XYZ equal to pword equal to XYZ stored in body part. And also one more thing, this header part is limited. Body part can be increased also. Header part not increased. Because whatever you write header, that is going to be displayed in address bar. Address bar size is limit is there. 8 kilobytes, 16 kilobytes, some limitation is there. Depends upon browser, depends upon versions, some limitation is there. The size, this size of the data limited. Here size of the data not limited. There is no limit. Now, n number of request parameters you write here, accepted, accepted, accepted. But here not possible. That size is limit. Like continuously if you type in address bar, somewhere it is going to end. Because that will take 8 kilobytes or 16 kilobytes, depends upon browser memory, browsers and versions. They're updating every time. That's what exact size I'm not giving. That may be 8 kilobytes or 16 kilobytes, 32 kilobytes, something limitation is there. That is also difference. Note down. Second difference. Here size of the data is limited. Here size of the data is limited. Now here size of the data is not limited. Here size of the data is limited. Here size of the data is not limited. So there is no limit in the size. There is no limit in the size in the body part. Because body part can be increased. Header part not increased. That header part browser related. Body part n number of bytes you can send. Now size of the data is limited. Here size of the data is not limited. Third one. In this method, all request parameters are displayed in address bar. In this method, request parameters are not displayed in a browser window. In this method, request parameters are not displayed. In this method, request parameters are not displayed. But if you use get, it will display. It will display in address bar. But here, not displayed. If the data is confidential, which one you have to use? Post. But it is little fast. It is little fast. It is slow. But slow and fast, how much difference? Milliseconds gap only. Fraction of seconds gap only, it is passed. So here fast and slow is not important. But confidential data is there, your password is there. Sensitive information will be there, no? Passwords, PIN number, security code, MPIN. At that time, you should not use. Otherwise, other people can see your password. Later, they can type, they can use your data also. Okay? That's what. If the data is not confidential, then use get. If the data is confidential, use post. And also, now present text is there. Sometimes emails, audio files, video files, uploading emails also will be there. No? Then whatever you type here, that request parameter displaying an address bar. But if one image uploaded, will it display an address bar? So that is not suitable for uploadings. Get method. Write this one also. It is not suitable for uploading. It is not suitable for uploadings. It is suitable for uploadings also. Okay. Now, here, if suppose in a registration form, first name, last name, address, mobile number, mail ID, your photo also. Then the photo will upload. Then what will happen? It is not suitable. In that situation also you have to use post only. And if the size is more size is there, at that time also you have to go for post only. Because address bar, if it is full, data loss will occur. So more than that size is there, the data loss will occur. So that is the reason here confidential data is there. Compulsory use post. If size is more amount, large amount of data you are sending, then also use post. And if it is uploading images are there, uploading audio file, video file is there, then also use post. But very few fields are there, very few fields are there, less amount of data is there. At that time, you can go for get. What is the benefit? Fast. Only that is a benefit. Okay. Listen. Now it is get method, post method. Now get method, post method. Any type of method your Servlet is going to handle. Now here 7 HTTP methods are there. No? Any type of request comes, service method is going to be called. Service method is called for every request. That is you studied. But that request type can be get also, post also, put also, delete, anything. Previous all programs, we didn't write this all. That means by default get. By default get only. If you write post also, your service program works. Any other also service program works. But to differentiate these all, HTTP Servlet introduced. HTTP Servlet, separate methods are there for this all. You observe. Now, instead of service method, they given separate method. Which type of request you want to handle, that type of method is there. Okay. Now, Java P, say Jakarta dot Servlet dot generic Servlet. If I write generic Servlet, in this generic Servlet, only one method, abstract method, that is service. This is service method. Okay. Here other methods are there, but service method compulsory you have to override. But if you use Jakarta dot Servlet dot HTTP dot HTTP Servlet, you observe here. Do get, it will handle only get. Do head, it will handle only head. Do put, do post, do delete, do options, do trace. So here 7 methods are there. See, do get, head, post, put, delete, options, trace. Now, already given, how many ways are there to write Servlet program? 3 ways. First one, by implementing Servlet interface. Second one, by extending generic Servlet. Third one, by extending HTTP Servlet. Now, 3 different ways. If we implement Servlet interface, how many methods are mandatory to override? 5 methods are mandatory to override. Okay. Instead of that, we used alternative way, generic Servlet. Generic Servlet, how many methods mandatory to override? 1 method. That is, but here you observe, HTTP Servlet also abstract class, but there is no abstract method. You observe. See, there is no abstract keyword. Only for class is there. See, here only abstract keyword, but further there is no abstract keyword. You observe. But here it is abstract class, but abstract method is not there. Abstract class, but abstract method is not there. For writing abstract class, is it abstract method compulsory? No. For writing abstract method, is it abstract class compulsory? That is compulsory. Okay. Now, they given as abstract class, but they didn't write any abstract method. You observe. That means you cannot create object. But if you want, you can override. If you don't want, you can omit. But here, what is the use of HTTP Servlet interface? Now, if you extend generic Servlet, how many method mandatory to override? 1 method. Which method? That is compulsory, always service only, you're right. But here you have a freedom. Whichever you want, you can select. That is a benefit. So, if we implement Servlet interface, 5 methods mandatory to override. If we extend generic Servlet, 1 method mandatory to override. If we extend HTTP Servlet, No method mandatory. But no method mandatory. If you don't write any method, no error, no output. You will not get any output also. That means why they given like that is freedom to select whichever you want. That's what no method mandatory. Whichever you want, select, override. That is executed. According to your requirement, you can choose. So here you can select the method whichever you want in your application. Like that, freedom they given to select. But in a generic solid, no freedom. Compulsory service method only. Okay. And also, HTTP solid is subclass or generic solid is subclass. I give an hierarchy. HTTP solid is a subclass of generic solid. Then if you use subclass, using subclass reference, can I call superclass services? Yes. But if you use superclass, can I access subclass methods? No. That is the reason HTTP solid is the best option. Okay. Using generic solid, HTTP specific services not possible to implement in your program. But using HTTP solid, generic solid specific information also we can implement because it is subclass. That is the reason we'll go for HTTP solid. First of all, here, generic solid, HTTP solid, how to differentiate, how to select, what is the difference? I'll explain. First of all, these are 7 HTTP methods are there, no? That purpose, separate methods are there. No, no done. Here, first HTTP solid methods list I'll give. How to select I'll give. Otherwise, generic solid, HTTP solid differences we'll see first. Write it. Differences between generic solid and HTTP solid. Differences between generic solid and HTTP solid. One side, generic solid. One more side, HTTP solid. Differences between generic solid and HTTP solid. Differences between generic solid and HTTP solid. It is a protocol independent. It is a protocol independent. It is a HTTP protocol dependent. It is a protocol independent. It is a HTTP protocol dependent. Say, generic solid on any protocol it works. HTTP solid works on HTTP protocol only. It is HTTP protocol dependent. Present in internet, which protocol you are using? HTTP. One more, HTTP, yes. That's it. Yes means secured. Data secured if you use HTTP, yes. Like while sending data client to server, server to client, encrypted, decrypted. That is only HTTP, yes. That's what, while doing bank transactions, first you have to observe HTTP, yes is there or not in your browser. HTTP, yes is not there. You should not use bank transaction. That may be hacked by other people. They can hack, they can see your sensitive information. That is one security tip. There are so many security tips they'll give while doing online transaction. That is, no one will observe, they'll perform transaction, later they'll realize. That is happening. Okay. Like internet banking, if you want to use, so many security tips are there. The security tips, they'll give bank people. And that is, you have to follow. The bank transactions, if you want to perform in your browser, you have to see the some security tips that is you have to follow. Then your transaction is 100% safe. Okay. Security tips, so many will be there. They'll give one manual also for using internet banking, mobile banking, security tips they'll give. That instructions no one is following. That is happening. You must to follow. They are giving, but people are not following. That is happening. Nowadays, some bank people, they started classes, online banking, how to use safe banking. They're taking classes also, how to use safe banking. Okay. Now, it is a protocol independent. It is a HTTP protocol dependent. This will work on any protocol. This will work on HTTP protocol only. Suppose in future, one ABC protocol comes. Now, this Solid will not work. Generic Solid works. That is generic protocol, generic Solid concept. See, for example, in core Java class, you studied like this. This type. What is this? Generic. In a collections frameworks, you studied, no? Array list. Here, E. Hash map. Word K, comma, V. Now, are these data types? No. While creating object, you can specify the type. That is generic. Now, array list is working on any type of elements. Hash map is working on any type of keys, any type of values. Generic programming, like that here word generic. Now, there, while creating array list object, in the square angular brackets, if you write integer, then E nothing but integer. While creating object of hash map, if you write integer, if you write float, then key nothing but integer, V nothing but float. While creating object, you can specify the data type. That is. So this is working on integer also, float also, characters also, boolean also, string also, object also, employee also, any type. That is called generic. Here also, it is working on any protocol. Whichever protocol is there, it works. That type. But this will work only on HTTP. It is HTTP specific service. Okay. Now, write this one. It supports common services. Examples: forwarding and including. It supports HTTP specific services. Examples: redirecting and session tracking. These all I didn't explain, in further session comes. It supports common services. Examples: forwarding, including. It supports HTTP specific services. Example: redirecting, session tracking. Say, if you want to forward one Solid to another Solid, that is generic Solid service only. If you want to include, that is also generic Solid service only. But redirecting, session tracking. But your doubt, what is forwarding, what is including, what is redirecting, what is session tracking? These all in further topics in Solids only it comes. Okay, later we'll see. These services are called generic Solid services. These services are called HTTP specific services. That is HTTP protocol service. Now, but if you use generic Solid, these all possible. Forwarding, including possible. If you use HTTP Solid, not only these two also possible. Reason, it is superclass. Using subclass, superclass possible, no? That's what possible. Okay. Now, note, by using generic solid, we can use common services only. By using HTTP service solid, by using HTTP solid, by using HTTP solid, we can use both common services and HTTP specific services. Because HTTP solid is a subclass of generic solid. Because HTTP solid is a subclass of generic solid. Now give me answer. Which solid program is better? HTTP solid. That's what no one will use generic solid in real time. If you use HTTP solid, all we can use. Always subclass object is powerful. Using subclass object, superclass methods also can access, no? That's what using HTTP solid, generic solid services, HTTP solid services, all we can access. That's what highest priority will give for HTTP solid. Writing solid program 3 different ways. First one, implement solid. If you implement solid, how many methods compulsory to override? 5 methods. That's what we selected alternative way. That is generic solid. But as compared to that one, it is more better, no? If you use this one, all programs you can implement. Suppose you want to use session tracking in your program. Generic solid, not possible. With the solid redirecting, if you want to implement, it is not possible. So these services are HTTP protocol specific services. HTTP solid supports. It is protocol independent. On any protocol works, but that service is not possible to implement. Okay. But how it is possible here, generic solid? That is subclass. Got your point? Now, present anyhow, we are using HTTP solid on HTTP protocol only. In future, if other protocol come, they'll prepare one more solid. That's it. Okay. See, actually what they'll do, it is generic solid. Generic solid. Generic solid inverted in HTTP solid. HTTP solid. Here, forwarding is a one service. Forwarding. Including is a one more service. Here, redirecting is a one service. Okay. Like a session tracking is a one more service. Now, if you use this one, only these two possible. If you use this one, if you use HTTP solid, these two possible, these two possible. In future, if any other protocol comes, one ABC protocol comes, what they'll do? They'll create ABC solid. One ABC solid they'll prepare. Okay. Then what they'll do? They'll derive from generic. But if this inheritance concept is not there, again they have to start from the beginning. Because of inheritance only, they'll start implementation of new solid from this one only. In common services, no need to implement, already separated. That is the use of inheritance. In future, updation maintenance becomes easy. Okay. Now, here, previous all programs we used generic solid. Now, which one is better? That's what we are going for, HTTP solid. But HTTP solid, many methods are there. How to select? I'll explain. Here, HTTP solid. Many methods are there that do get, do post, and service remaining not required. Here methods do get, do post, service. Two service methods are there. You see. Radisson. Now, how to use HTTP solid, you are going to learn. Now, in that example, I'll go for HTTP solid. Do get, do post, service, service. All method throws solid exception, IO exception. But parameters, first three methods, HTTP solid request, HTTP solid response. Last method, solid request, solid response. First three method protected, last method public. Return type all void. Here, service method overloaded or overridden. Is it overloading or overriding? In this class, I'm asking. Overloading or overriding? Overloading. Here, two different parameters are there, no? Overloading. Service method overloaded. But it is overridden from generic solid. Overriding is there, overloading is there. Only this class, if you check, overloading. Superclass, subclass also, if you check, overriding. That service method, whatever is there, that is overridden here. Again, this is overloaded here. Okay. Now, in this all, which is life cycle method? Service method. But two services are there. Which is life cycle? Last one. This is life cycle method. Server knows only this method. It doesn't know other methods. But I am saying freedom to select any method you select, I am saying. But how it is going to be called? That is required. I'll explain. Now, what I said, whichever method you require, that is override, I said. Whichever you want, you can select. Freedom to select. Okay. But this is life cycle method. Server knows only one method. That is this service method. Server doesn't know do get. Server doesn't know do post. Server doesn't know service. This is only knows this service. Okay. Now, first of all, are these abstract methods or concrete method? Are these abstract or concrete? Concrete. Written some code. It is not empty. Okay. It is not empty. Written some code. Now, for understanding this one, core Java dynamic polymorphism required. Runtime polymorphism is studied, no? That is required. That is most important to understand this one. Now, I'll explain. Now, first of all, how many ways to write solid program? 3 ways. First one, by implementing solid interface. Next one, by extending generic solid class. Third one, by extending HTTP solid class. Okay. Now, here there are 3 ways to implement solid. There are 3 ways to write solid program. First one, by implementing solid interface. Second one, by extending generic solid. Third one, by extending HTTP solid. You already studied this hierarchy also. Solid, generic solid, HTTP solid. Okay. Here, solid inverted in generic solid. Generic solid inverted in HTTP solid. This is you already studied. Okay. Here, what is this? Interface. What is this? Abstract class. Okay. Abstract class. What is this? Abstract class. It is abstract class. This is already explained. Here, how many abstract methods? 5 abstract methods. Okay. Here, how many abstract method? 1 abstract method. Okay. Next, here, how many abstract method? No abstract methods. This is already you studied. Okay. There are, listen with more concentration, it is important. There are 3 ways to write solid program. First one, by implementing solid interface. Second one, by extending generic solid class. Third one, by extending HTTP solid class. Okay. If we implement this interface, 5 abstract methods mandatory to override. You must to override. But how many lifecycle methods are there? 3. What are those? Init, service, destroy. These 3 only server knows. If you write 5 also remaining not called, you have to call. 3 only called automatically. Now, alternative way we selected generic solid. Then how many methods mandatory to override? 1. That is service. That service method automatically called. Okay. One more way, extend HTTP solid. If you extend HTTP solid, suppose again if you write this method, if you override, this is going to be called. But if you write this method, again, what are the parameters? Old concept only, no? Then extending HTTP solid, overriding that lifecycle service method, then no difference between generic solid, HTTP solid. Same. Only class name HTTP solid. That's it. Remaining all same. It is not possible to implement redirecting. It is not possible to implement session tracking if you use this method, because we required HTTP solid request, HTTP solid response. These parameters required. Suppose if I override this one, if I override this one, if I override this one, these are non-lifecycle methods. This is lifecycle method. Server knows only this method. But if I write this method executed, but how executed required? I would explain. First of all, what's the difference between get, post, service? Do get, do post, service. That knowledge required. Now write it. Do get method. Do get method. Not done. It handles get type requests only. It handles get type requests only. It handles get type request only. Do post method. It handles post type requests only. Service method. It handles both get and post type requests. It handles both get and post type requests. Do get method only get type requests. Do post method only post type requests. Service method both get and post. Any type of request can be handled. Now, if you want to handle only get type requests, which method you have to select? Do get. You want to handle only post type requests. You want to handle both. Service. Like that, you have to select. But server knows only service method. But if you override do get and do post, how it is going to be called, I'll explain. Here, service also, two services are there. Life cycle service, non-life cycle service. Two services. But one service only it knows. That is life cycle service. Actually, these all concrete methods. They written some code. What they written? See. I'll explain. Web container calls. Web container calls service method, which takes servlet request, servlet response. Okay. This will call non-life cycle service. So In this method body, they return to call another service method. HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response. Okay. So here, 1 minute. Web container calls. Web container calls service method. Okay. Service method which takes servlet request, servlet response. This service method calls another service method. Service which takes HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response. So here what is happening, see, web container calls this method. In this method is concrete method or abstract method in HTTP servlet? In HTTP servlet, concrete method. They return some code to call this method. Then it is called. Then it is called. From here, what will happen? Say, from here, it will check which type of request came. If it is get type request, it calls doGet method. If it is request type is post, then it calls doPost method. Then it calls doPost method. So what it will do, in this method body, they return to check request type. If the request type is get, then it calls doGet. If the request type is post, then it calls doPost. Suppose you observe, if you override this one, then your method called. It is stopped there only. Suppose if you override this one, first this is called, it will call this one, whatever you write here, that is executed, stopped. Suppose if you override this one, first it is called, next it is called, next request type is get is there, it is called. Post is there, it is not called. Here, if you override this one, if first this is called, it will call this one. If post type is there, it is called. Otherwise, it is not called. Now, this is not easy to understand. I have to explain with some examples. For understanding that one, runtime polymorphism required. With that, I'll explain. First, you write this one. I'll explain how it is going to be executed. I'll explain. Now, with core Java questions, with core Java answers, your answers you'll understand. If you don't know core Java means difficult to understand. Okay, that's what first I'll ask some core Java question. With that, you'll get a clarity. All right, this one. As compared to advanced Java, core Java important. Always remember. Web container calls life cycle service method. This is called life cycle service. This is non-life cycle methods. Web container knows only one life cycle method, that is service. It doesn't know non-life cycle service. It doesn't know do get. It doesn't know do post. So whatever a given application development, in that we are going to use HTTP Solid now. That's what first HTTP Solid I'll explain, with that I'll implement. Is it over? Is it over? Say web container knows only life cycle service method. Life cycle service method calls non-life cycle service method. Non-life cycle service method checks the request type. Which type of request came? Do get. Then it calls do get. Get type request came. Then it calls do get. Request type is post. Then do post. But a previous all solid program, which type request came? Get type request came by default. In a program, method equal to post if you write, then only do post. Then only post type request. Okay. Now I'll ask some questions, give me answer. It is solid interface. Okay. It is generic solid. It is HTTP Solid. Now, suppose you selected Solid interface. This is no need to write. I'll give notes. First listen and give answers. Now, writing Solid program 3 different ways. One is implementing Solid interface. Second one implementing generic Solid. Third one HTTP Solid. Suppose you selected Solid interface. You will override service method. There is no other option. Service only called. If you extend generic solid, you will override service method. Again, there is no option. That is only called. But if you override, if you extend HTTP solid, you can select whatever you want. Okay. Now, suppose in my solid, I'll override my solid. I'll inherit from HTTP solid. Okay. Now, service is available here. Here, service. That is solid request, solid response. Here also, that service only. That service only. But it is abstract. Just I'm writing semicolon, that means abstract. Okay. Here I'm writing semicolon, that means abstract. But in HTTP solid, that is non-abstract, concrete. So service is there. It is non-abstract. Another service also is there. HTTP solid request, HTTP solid response, and do get also is there. Do post also is there. Okay. Like these 4 methods are present here. Okay. This method present here. This method present here. Now, if you implement Servlet interface, you must override this method only. There is no option. That is will override, that is called. If you extend generic Servlet, you must override this method only. That is called. There is no other option. But if you extend HTTP Servlet, you can override any method. It is not mandatory to override that service only. Suppose in my program, I overridden doGet. Assume. This method I overridden here. Assume. Okay. Now, whenever request comes to my Servlet object created by web container, then it will search for lifecycle service method. Is there in my Servlet? Then where it will search? HTTP Servlet. Is there? This is called. In this method, what they written? To call non-lifecycle service. Just now I given no? Now what it will do? It will call non-lifecycle service. So it calls this one. Okay. What this will do? It checks the request type. Now request type, suppose get. Then what it will do? doGet. Which doGet called? HTTP Servlet doGet or my Servlet doGet? Overriding you studied or not? No. My Servlet or HTTP Servlet? Which one? Now here also doGet is there. Here also doGet is there. Give me answer. My Servlet or HTTP Servlet? My Servlet is called because overridden. Overriding always latest only called because subclass reference. It is subclass, even superclass reference also overriding only called. You studied A OB equal to new B. Using A reference subclass overriding method you can access, no? Subclass overriding method. Suppose here A class. Here B class. Other class or interface, whatever it may be. But subclass, superclass concept is studied. Show. Here show. Now, first of all, like this valid or not valid? A OB equal to new B. Valid or not valid? OB dot show. Which show method called? A class or B class? Which class? B class show method called. Even A reference also. Okay. Suppose here print method is there. One more. Here OB dot print. What will happen? What will happen? See, you are getting confused, no? That means Core Java most important. You given that answer. What you given first one? OB dot show. Here, which is called? B class called. Now give me answer OB dot print. It is called or not called? Now my question is, this print method called or not called? How many people answer called? Just raise your hand. No one is there. How many answer not called? See, not called also they are not giving confidently. That has happened. Okay. Here, it is not called. It's an error. It is not called. It's an error. Because this method belongs to, with A reference, can we access B methods? But how it is valid show? It is overriding method that is belongs to A class. Definition present in B, but belongs to A class. That's what called. Okay. So if you write AOB equal to new B with A reference, you can access only A members. That A member, if it is overridden in B class also, you can access. That is the concept. But B members you cannot access. So AOB equal to new B, this line is valid. OB dot show, this line is valid. Then B class definition called. OB dot print, it's an error. Because print belongs to B. With A reference, you cannot access. But how this show method is accessible? That is only runtime polymorphism concept. If the method is present in B class called. Not present, A class called. Like that here also. Here in my solid, suppose I'll override doGet. Okay. I'll override doGet. Now from browser, one request comes to my solid. Then my solid object created. It knows only lifecycle service. Lifecycle service is there in my solid? No. Then where it will search? HTTP solid. It is called. What this will do? It calls non-lifecycle service method. What this will do? It checks the requested type. Suppose requested type is get. Then what it will do? doGet. Which doGet called? Now from here, my solid doGet is going to be called. So like this. Suppose requested type is post. Then what will happen? This is not called. This do post called. Okay. Like this. Suppose I'll override do post. Again, web container request comes. Now my solid object created. It will search for lifecycle service. Is there? Then again, it is called. It will call this one. Suppose requested type is get. What will happen? This do get called. Suppose requested type is post. My solid do post is called. Okay. Suppose I'll override service which takes solid request, solid response. Web container creates object to my solid. Then which is called service. This my solid service or HTTP solid service. It is called. These all nothing, not called. Okay. Then what will happen? Then no difference between generic solid and HTTP solid. That's what we should not override this service method. If you extend HTTP solid, we should not override. About this one, still half an hour lecture is there. Okay. About this one, that is tomorrow. It is not completed. After explanation of this one, this program I'll explain. This program. Okay. Tomorrow they'll explain. You'll see continuation tomorrow.